Blake, thank you for the 10. With 343 rebranding as Halo Studios, do they have the same people in charge of Halo? If not, they're still 343 and no one is going to be fooled by it. Gamers nowadays are pretty in tune with gaming now. Yeah, I mean, I don't, they've done a lot of like restructuring, whatever they'd call it. They'd probably call it reorganizing. Whether that makes a difference or not is an entirely different issue. Which this leads us well into this. Halo moves to Unreal Engine 5 with multiple games in development. What they've been doing the last couple years is apparently exploring. I think they called it an explorative project, where they worked on bringing Halo into Unreal Engine 5 and seeing what they could do with it. This is the little video they posted as part of this big rebrand from 343 to this new studio.
Chris Matthews, take one. Mark.
This is Casey Wu, take one. Mark.
I was told that I can just be my authentic self, Chris.
For 6 years, I don't want to be in front of a camera.
There's so much to do and so much fun to be had when you play Halo that I feel like I never run out of things to do.
I love intricate stories that take place across lots of different worlds, have lots of different meaningful characters.
What made Halo successful at the beginning? What is the legacy of Halo, and what's the soul that we want to bring forward, and what's the craft of making Halo games, and how do we set our studio at best to go deliver on that?
We knew we had to make a change in order to take us into the future.
When I first heard about Halo moving to Unreal Engine, my first thought was, this is going to be a really hard secret to keep.
I think fans are going to be excited about the future of Halo because of the possibilities that are afforded us by using Unreal.
Before, we really had to split our focus in thinking about building an engine, supporting it, being really kind of a tech company and a studio at the same time. Since we've made the change to shift to UE, we can bring Halo forward in ways that people have never seen before while still being true to what Halo is.
The founding.
And this is something we are hearing from dozens of studios, right? Like there's so many that are shifting to Unreal Engine or other broadly used engines. And you got to kind of pause and wonder why. And I think there's a couple just plainly obvious things. Yes, they pay licensing costs for the Unreal Engine. Yes, they pay Epic for that. But it is really expensive to develop your own internal engine, keep it up to date, keep it hopefully cutting edge with the competition, and to build it in a way where it can scale across multiple platforms, across multiple different pieces of hardware. It's just a huge headache. And as they just alluded to, where you have to like basically be a tech company developing an engine and then also be a game development company. And a lot of people that are making the games are not engine developers. It's a different skill set to program an engine and tools versus building out levels and writing stories and interesting quests. Like those are two totally different disciplines. And I think what a lot of these companies are realizing is that it's just freaking expensive to try and do both. Back in the day, like 15, 20 years ago, not that big of a deal because your engine could be kind of strapped together with duct tape and hopes and dreams and it was fine. But nowadays, gamers are expecting 4K 60. They expect probably some ray tracing. They expect implementation of AI upscalers. They need implementation of all these crazy quality of life improvements like cloud saves and cross-platform support. And like expectations are way, way higher than they used to be. And so a lot of studios are like, we could do that, or we just let Epic do it. Maybe we just do that. That's probably easier. Let Epic be the tech company that makes the tools, and then we will just do our own thing. And we'll focus on what we're good at, hopefully, which is making games. So I think that's one thing. The other side of this that isn't really talked about a lot is how easy it is to acquire talent when you have sort of common or frequently used familiar tools. So because it lowers the cost of training and stuff. So if you are at CDPR 5 years ago and they needed to hire like a quest designer, they needed to hire some level designers or something, they could go and find somebody fresh out of college, or they could hire somebody from even like Naughty Dog, let's say. They hire them, they come all the way to the studio. They now have to spend 6 months getting familiar with the tool sets and figuring out how to use this engine, the Red Engine, when they're used to using Naughty Dog's engine. And there's going to be some stuff that's similar, but then there's other things they're going to have to do differently, and other things where, oh, you did it this way. Well, you actually have to use this scripting system over here. And then once you've done that, you put that into the game here. And once we're ready to compile everything, then we go back through and we rewrite the code by hand so it runs more efficiently. And it's just more and more hoops to jump through and a huge learning curve. Whereas if everybody's using Unreal Engine, you show up day one and you can start working very easily. You know, you worked on like Witcher 4, the next Witcher game, on Unreal Engine 5.5 or whatever they're going to be using. And then you got hired to go and help with the new Halo. You hop on over, same tools, you just hop right in day one, you can start working. That is also a consideration. So there's many, many different things that can help with this. And I think also the promise of Epic right now is with all of these companies that are coming into the fold, that are using their tools, they have the ability to develop cutting edge tools that will help with the new Halo game. But then they're also developing tools with the help of CDPR and their feedback that will help with open world adventure games. And they're developing this stuff that will help with this type of game and that type of game. And it, in theory, will make it so every developer gains access to tools that previously would have been proprietary, that previously would only have been available to a select few studios who develop those cool technologies. Now they'd be readily accessible to everybody. The potential downside of all of this, though, which before we continue with this little video, I think it's important to note, when everybody, it's like a syndrome in The Incredibles. When everyone's super, nobody is. And I think when everybody has access to amazing tools through Unreal, it's like nobody does, because then they're no longer special. They're no longer cutting edge. And the danger, I think, is that a lot of games will start to look very similar. They'll start to play very similar. And, you know, it's like those indie games where you can tell an indie game that uses Unreal, where you can just tell, oh, that's the Unreal Engine model rig, and they're walking the same way as this character in this other game, and then these assets are from the Unreal Engine store because you can see them in this other game. They're used all over the place, so you can start to spot them everywhere you look, you know. And I think that could potentially also be a frustration, is a lot of games will start to kind of blend the lines between unique tools and unique technologies because it's all tying together. Why couldn't they have used the id Tech engine? I'm sure that was a consideration, but maybe they just found that for the projects they're looking at, it's not actually ideal, because the team that is now working on Halo, we know they've been working on a number of games, but like id Tech is really good at this thing. Like, they are really good at fast-paced first-person shooters. Really phenomenal engine for that. But if the Halo guys are looking at doing like massive multiplayer stuff, they're looking at having like 100 players in a server for some big thing. I don't know if that would, it's not really MMO, so just multiplayer online games. And then they also have the single player stuff they want to do. They want to do really big, ambitious single player games. So that could potentially be used here. That could totally work. So that's an option. Maybe there's some crossover here, but that's something they want to do. And then they also want to do other games that maybe scale through multiple generations, or they want to go over here and do this. Like, if they have all of these different ideas, but the id Tech engine is only capable of crossing a few of these, or like 1 or 2 or 3 of them, there's just not much reason. Whereas Unreal, the promise is that Unreal can do everything and they don't need to bother developing it or anything. You know, that for them, I'm sure, is a real incentive.
Project was an effort to show ourselves how far we can push things using Unreal 5.
New studio art director Chris came to me, and
I love that tattoo, by the way. He's got the different dice on his neck. That's good.
And said, hey, I have this crazy idea.
He said, hey, there's this thing called Project Foundry that I want to do. Let's make it happen.
Foundry specifically
Project
is
Foundry.
based around the same concept of the Foundry in Halo lore. It's the place where Halo rings are born.
Rendered in Unreal Engine 5. Yeah, you guys like that idea? Okay, we could do that.
Game is a research project for our studio so we can prepare ourselves for the next steps of making Halo games.
The original Halo franchise was a graphics showcase. It was best in class. That's what Halo was when it first was released, and that's what Halo needs to be again.
New Dawn. So I like some of the verbiage they're using. They're saying it used to be this. We need to be that again. It used to be like this. We need to get there again. That's what I would hope to hear, where they're looking at where were we and where are we now? Let's be honest with ourselves. And what do we need to do to achieve that same goal? What do we need to do to overcome how far we've fallen behind? Because Halo Infinite, I had fun with it. You know, clearly that was plagued with development issues, and they were roundly mocked for various things with the way some of the brutes looked. We've all seen the memes. So that's certainly a factor in all of this consideration. But I also find it really interesting that they've done this research project, as he alludes to, for the last couple of years to work on building out a vision for what the franchise would look like on Unreal. It's very interesting.
Is the place where Halo rings are born. It's not a game, it's a research project for our studio so we can prepare ourselves for the next steps of making Halo games.
Research project. Other studios have done similar stuff. Typically they turn it into a game though. So notably like Skyrim Anniversary Edition, when they did that first like remaster thing, they said that was their way of training themselves for the new hardware, I think for Fallout 4. And so they developed that in like 2013, 14 while they were working on Fallout 4, understanding the new consoles and stuff. And then they just decided to release it and it printed money. And with this, it seems like they have taken the route of, we're going to spend a year, 2 years working in Unreal Engine, building out levels, understanding the tools, converting our whole processes over there, and getting where we need to be able to go into production on some big games using this tool set. Because again, it's not as simple as just moving over to a new engine as some people might think it is. Even like in what I do, where we do video production and stuff, like where I have a couple of editors I work with. If I go and I decide, okay, we're moving to whatever it is, DaVinci Resolve, or we're moving to Final Cut Pro from Premiere, which is what we use, the Adobe suite. All of our original assets that are built in After Effects, all of those original files or backed up footage or different things that we have, all the transitions we use, all of that now has to be like redone, or it has to be exported in a very particular way so it's compatible with the other software. There's many more hoops to jump through. And in the case of video game development, there are different files that are proprietary. In the case of video games, there's scripts that are proprietary. There could be unique things that were just very iconic to Halo that now will not work in Unreal, and they have to rebuild them. So they need to spend time doing that. So it's not as simple as like just flip a switch and go over to this. It's not like, oh, I was writing my paper in Google Docs and I'm going to copy and paste it into Word. It's not that simple. There's many, many more hoops to jump through with this type of thing. 2 years is still a crazy amount of time to be working on a research project, but maybe that was just, you know, some of the team was working on it for 2 years, others worked on it for 6 months, you know, I'm wondering.
The original Halo franchise was a graphics showcase. It was best in class. That's what Halo was when it first was released, and that's what Halo needs to be again.
Now, some people have looked at these clips and said they look like action figures. Part of that is because they are literally posed like action figures and they're not moving. I think in motion, it would feel different. I think there's also, like here, you can see the camera's panning in, so there's movement, but they're all frozen in place, so it is going to look a little bit like that. Also, just in terms of materials work, I do think that it would be interesting to see more mud on the armor, more dirt and grime and stuff. They are scratched up. You can see some scratches on some of the armor and things like that, but I do think that is leading to the sort of plastic feel, where everything is like too smooth and too clean. And I think maybe even some extra intensity on like ambient occlusion in some of these crevasses could help potentially. But yeah, like this, it's just very clean. Very clean. There's some scuffs and stuff, but I think adding some dirt and wear and tear, increasing that could help. A New Dawn.
So once Project Foundry had been approved, we took the entire creative team and we ideated on 3 locations, something old, something new, and something really alien.
We had the Pacific Northwest, which is sort of traditional Halo biome.
We were trying to shove as much foliage in there as humanly possible to make it really feel like you're on a hike in the, Cascades.
The Coldlands, which was the second biome that we took on, it was more of a technical showcase where we could play with shaders, we could play with deformable landscapes and terrains. Unreal affords us more opportunity than we've ever had in the past.
On the surface, it might just look all like snow, but how many layers of things combine to really give that winter look?
And then
I will say, even just this, like, I'll play this back. Just look at the soft, billowing steam coming out of here. Just watch that. This is higher fidelity than I feel anything in Halo Infinite had.
Combine to really give
Look at
that winter look.
And then our third biome was
See, that looks good. That looks modern. That's where we need to be.
the Blightlands, which
Those
is
details.
any land that's been completely taken over by the flood.
I wanted to give our team the opportunity to really
Opportunity.
express an alien world, a really alien world.
His voice sounds a little dry. He might need a bottle of water.
The opportunity to really express an alien world, a really alien world, taking something way further than they may have actually done in previous Halo games.
What's impressed me about watching the Halo team work in Unreal is how beautiful everything looks, how incredible the environments look.
I will say it does look very good. I think also part of the thing is like, this was a problem with Halo Infinite. It's a problem with a lot of sci-fi games, honestly. It's just when things are this sort of smooth, metallic-y way, it's really easy for them to look, I don't know what the, like, again, plasticky, I guess is the term, where it looks too smooth, too perfect. It just doesn't seem real, because reality is defined by its imperfections. I mean, what makes photorealistic stuff seem photorealistic is that it is not perfect. You see strands of hair going off weird directions. You see pores of different sizes on somebody's skin. You see dirt or grime or little bits of trash on the ground, or you see twigs broken in the trees. That type of thing is what makes something feel really real. And here they've done a better job. This shot does a better job of it, where there is grunge, there is wear and tear. But this is sort of the where there's a crossover between art direction and the narrative direction, where I can understand some people might be like, well, Luke, that's just how these things are. You know, they are very resistant to rain or to weather, and so they would look smooth. They would look really crisp and clean. I get that. But it doesn't change the perception that people will have, which is that even though there's a reason they look like this, by their nature of looking this way, it seems too perfect. It seems too pristine. So maybe rework the narrative a little in a way where you can grunge it up like this, where you can make it look like it's been sitting out here in the elements for a little while. Have some rain, have some snow that's compacted onto it. You sit your car out on the driveway after a snowstorm, when the snow melts away, there's dust and dirt that was in the snow that's now compacted on this. I don't care if it's made of metal. I don't care if it has the ceramic, whatever weather coat on it to help it slough that stuff off. It will still be pretty dirty. And I know this is alien technology, but maybe like, because we live in a reality without alien technology, when we're trying to figure out what looks real, we need to see stuff from our lived experience, which is dirt. It's grime, you know? Having the perfect, sham-wowed appearance doesn't necessarily look real to humans, even if there's a narrative explanation for it. That's my point. But I do think that this angle, this shot, this looks very good. This looks very good.
I don't think we've seen anything quite like it in Unreal Engine before.
Fortunately, we have a studio that's really passionate about Halo, about the look and the feel, and I think there's a lot of hunger to really collaborate, to move forward together.
Foundry was an initiative that touched on every part of the creative process, everything from concept art, VFX, characters, vehicles, and weapons to make the future games of Halo.
Creating an asset, taking this design, now we can really dig into material foundations. What is it actually made of? How is it physically accurate to the world? Now we get to take all the wonderful legacy assets that we have, bring them to life, and bring them to today's standards.
We are really excited to be not just working on multiple projects, but also expanding our studio.
As a lifelong Halo player, I think the game's only going to get better when we get those new, unique perspectives and people bring in their expertise and passion for the Halo franchise.
We are looking for new talent as the projects that we're working on kind of get further and further into their development cycles.
And it is great to be part of a team that's growing because you can kind of see that force multiplied as people come in and take on challenges and you can do more.
Imagine a place where you have the commitment that this is what we want to do, Halo games, and create those experiences. And you can express your talent, your creativity, and your professional ambitions in that place.
We're looking for designers, we're looking for artists, we're looking for engineers.
It feels like a new beginning for the studio in a lot of ways, and I think that's pretty rare.
And I think we arrived now at a point where you see the beginnings of people to start to believe in the process.
There's so much momentum that we have right now and focus and clarity on not just what we're building, but why we're building and kind of this next phase of Halo.
The worlds that we're building, the stories that we're going after.
The potential at Halo right now is huge.
Halo Infinite was the last remnants of how we made Halo games in the past. That was our recipe. And what we are doing right now, we're changing that recipe.
I mean, I think Halo fans are desperate for a fresh route because, like, even though I liked Infinite, how long did that take? That took how many years? How many years did that take? I would ask Apple Intelligence, but it's garbage, so that's not going to work. Let's see. How long did Halo Infinite take to make? 2015, early 2016, working on what Bonnie Ross called Halo 5.5. Halo 5 was 2015. It came out December 8th, 2021. It was intended to be a release title for the Series X, but it was delayed in August 2020 after its gameplay reveal in July of 2020 drew negative feedback from both critics and Halo fans. They did an open beta of the multiplayer. So it seems like maybe 5 to 6 years, which is a long time for a game like this. I mean, other companies are able to pump out first-person shooters every few years, but like that's a long time, especially when this is supposed to be one of Xbox's biggest franchises. You know, it's a long time. So it seems to me they're hoping that they're going to be able to crank this out. They're going to be able to build a big team that can make Halo into one of their big platform exclusives, potentially. I know some people are like, oh, well, Unreal Engine is really easy to develop on multiple platforms. That's right. Maybe that is part of the consideration. Maybe they are thinking, well, we can do this and then bring it to PlayStation 5 or 6 or whatever, and maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I think some of these franchises, I think you can bring to PlayStation 5 and people will kind of roll their eyes. Xbox fans will roll their eyes and go along with it. It's whatever. Like Sea of Thieves. I don't think anybody's like really freaking out that Sea of Thieves is on PlayStation. But I think if you brought Halo, which is Xbox, like that is as close to an Xbox brand as you could possibly be. Like Halo is Xbox. If you were to bring that to PlayStation, I think that would be a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. So I would not expect it to be cross-platform. And I think even the modern Xbox leadership, I think even they are aware of that. So I don't think so. But with this, I think their goal is to make a team that is easy to expand. And I think that they want to acquire as much talent as they can. This just kind of looks like the Human Centipede to me. this logo. I'm sorry, guys. I hate to be that guy. Doesn't it kind of look like a guy laying? These are his arms. This is his head, kind of sticking his tongue out. This is his legs, his foot. It's presenting his butt. Doesn't it kind of look like that? Am I the only one? No? Okay. But like, I think the key thing here is they want to have a tool set that is cutting edge. They want to be accessible to a new group of devs. They need to get people excited, and they need to bring people in. I think that's the whole point. Well, now I see it. Sorry, everybody. Sorry. So I wish them the best of luck with it. Obviously, like, I want good Halo games again, and I'd like them more often than every 6 years. I mean, to see Halo go from what was at one time probably the biggest game release of the year, way back in the day when they would release a new Halo. It was huge. People would wait outside GameStops and Best Buys all night to get access to the new Halo day one. It was huge. And it's just fallen off as a result of mismanagement and poor development practices. And maybe, just maybe, this is the start of something fresh and new. What I will say is there's no concept put forward here other than technical prowess and graphics. That's like the main selling point here, which, to be fair, is the only thing they could really show at this point. They don't have a prototype. They don't have new gameplay systems. They don't have new enemy types. Like, they don't have anything like that to show. They've been just working on getting acclimated with a new set of tools, which is, again, fine. Like, that's where you would expect them to be at this point. But just because you can make pretty environments does not mean you can make a good game. That's the part that remains to be seen. I will say this gets me confident they won't have the problems they had with that 2020 gameplay reveal. In case you guys don't remember, let's see if we can find it. Halo Infinite, July 2020 gameplay reveal. Yeah, people looked at this and they delayed it as a result. And like, it didn't look awful. It just didn't look like a modern day cutting edge game. Like, the foliage, there's no translucency with it. It's all just little stalks of like some sort of weird green fruit roll up. And you can see really bad pop in and all sorts of stuff like that. Like, there were just a lot of problems with it, and it needed a lot more time. And then, yeah, these brutes, these are the guys that got memed into oblivion. People thought these looked really bad. So their hope is now they don't, yeah, that right there. This guy right here. Let me see if I can freeze frame it. Yeah, that's the viral shot. This right here. So hopefully now they don't have to deal with this. They don't have to bother with these issues. I will say if they turned on motion blur, this probably never would have been a thing. Having it turned off, it stays so crisp from frame to frame that people could get this freeze frame and use it to freak out about. But motion blur would have fixed this, fam. Just saying. But it doesn't look great. Doesn't look great, right? So I think Unreal Engine at least gets over this hurdle, potentially, if they can retain the graphical fidelity that they showed there. Still have to make a good game. That's a big part. But at the very least, this is a big weakness they had that they will potentially not have anymore. And not needing to spend so much time working on technical improvements to the engine to make it look better or run better, where that's all just on Epic, that hopefully speeds up production so they can get this stuff out faster and faster. And so you could have a new Halo game every few years instead of every 6 years or every 7 years, you know, and even then it's not that big of a leap forward. So hopefully this is the start of something fresh and different. I wish them the best of luck. And I mean, props to Xbox to give them a good amount of time to work on it. You know, that's good to see. This was paired with reporting from Tom Warren from a while back in June specifically, where Tom Warren, he's the senior editor over at The Verge. He said that he reported on this, you know, and also had some other stuff in his piece in June, where he said one game that is being considered for release on PlayStation 5 is Halo, though. Sources tell me Microsoft is working on some form of Halo Combat Evolved Remastered that is also being considered for rival consoles. I don't expect Microsoft to announce this during the showcase as it's early days for this remaster. I will say, if this ends up being true, if they do bring it, it would be truly, truly remarkable. Like how they have managed to just totally get confused at every step of the way with what their fans want and the proper treatment for it. It really is remarkable. Interesting if they do that. My stance is bringing Halo to PlayStation is a terrible idea. I think that is one way to just fully, like, forget exclusives, full stop if you do that. Like, just go full publisher. At that point, I think Xbox literally means nothing. Put Starfield on PlayStation, I don't think anybody cares. I mean, all 13 fans will be either really upset or really happy to have more people playing it. But I don't think it's a big deal. Halo, though, Halo is Xbox. Like, it just is. Keep it on PC, keep it on Xbox, xCloud, all that, that's fine. But if you bring it to PlayStation, even a remaster or something of an old game, I still think that that's just such a bad look. It's just a bad look. I just don't think that's a good idea. But when has that ever stopped them before? Let's be perfectly honest. When has that ever stopped Xbox before? This seems like a terrible idea. We already did it. Sorry. Too late. I think the nostalgia is the one thing keeping the Halo series afloat. Yeah, I think it's certainly a big piece of it. I think it's a big piece of it. He took my thing.